Rare steak. Blue rare is the least cooked level of steak you can safely eat, and it's known for being extremely quick seared on the outside, while staying almost completely raw inside. The surface is briefly exposed to very high heat, just enough to create a thin brown crust, while the inside remains cool, soft, and deep red. This level of doneness is achieved by placing the steak on a very hot grill or pan for only a short time on each side, usually around 30 seconds to a minute. The goal isn't to cook the inside, but simply to sear the exterior for texture and slight flavor development. Blue rare steak is typically made from high-quality cuts like filet mignon or sirloin, where tenderness is naturally high and the meat can be enjoyed with minimal cooking. Because it's so lightly cooked, it's important that the meat is fresh and properly handled before preparation. When sliced, the center appears almost raw, cool to the touch, and deep red in color, with very little change from its natural state. This doneness is often chosen by people who enjoy the pure texture and natural flavor of beef, with only the lightest hint of searing on the outside. Rare steak. Rare steak is lightly cooked on the outside while keeping a warm red center that stays soft and juicy. It has a slightly firmer texture than blue rare, but still feels very tender and almost buttery when you cut into it. To achieve rare doneness, the steak is seared over high heat for a short time on each side, usually around 1 to 2 minutes. This allows the outer layer to brown and develop flavor, while the inside warms up without fully cooking through. The internal temperature of a rare steak typically reaches around 120 to 125 degrees Fahrenheit, which gives it that signature red center and juicy texture. When sliced, you'll notice a browned outer edge with a bright red interior that's warm rather than cool. The juices are more developed than in blue rare, giving it a richer bite while still keeping that natural meat flavor. Rare steak is often preferred by those who want a balance between a proper sear and a soft, juicy center without moving too far into fully cooked territory. Medium rare. Medium rare is one of the most commonly preferred levels of steak doneness, known for its warm pink center and juicy, tender texture. It offers a balance between a well-seared exterior and an inside that's fully warmed but still soft and slightly red. To achieve medium rare, the steak is cooked over high heat for a few minutes on each side, usually around 2 to 3 minutes, depending on the thickness. This allows a flavorful crust to form while gently bringing the center up to temperature. The internal temperature typically reaches around 130 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit, which gives it that signature pink center and consistent warmth throughout. When sliced, a medium rare steak shows a browned outer layer with a rosy pink interior that gradually transitions from edge to center. The texture is tender and juicy without feeling too raw or overly firm. Medium rare is often considered the ideal doneness for experiencing steak at its best. Medium. Medium steak is cooked to a point where the center is warm with a light pink color, while the outer layers are more fully browned. It has a firmer texture than medium rare, but still keeps a good amount of juiciness. To reach medium doneness, the steak is cooked a bit longer on each side, usually around 3 to 4 minutes, depending on thickness. This allows more heat to move toward the center, reducing the redness and creating a more even cook throughout. The internal temperature typically falls between 135 and 145 degrees Fahrenheit, giving it that soft pink center without any deep red remaining. When sliced, a medium steak shows a well-seared outer crust with a pale pink middle that fades into fully cooked edges. The juices are still present, but slightly less intense than in rarer levels. Medium is often chosen by those who prefer a more cooked steak, while still holding on to some tenderness and moisture in the center. Medium well. Medium well steak is cooked so that most of the pink is gone, leaving just a slight hint of it in the very center. The inside is mostly brown with a firmer texture and less juiciness compared to medium or medium rare. To achieve this level of doneness, the steak is cooked longer over steady heat, allowing the warmth to reach all the way through. This usually takes around 4 to 5 minutes per side, depending on how thick the cut is. The internal temperature typically reaches between 145 and 155 degrees Fahrenheit, which results in a steak that is fully heated with only a small trace of pink remaining. When cut open, a medium well steak shows a mostly brown interior with just a faint blush of pink in the center. The outer crust is well developed, and the overall texture is more firm and less tender than earlier stages. This doneness is often preferred by those who want their steak mostly cooked through while still keeping a slight bit of softness in the middle. Well done. Well done steak is fully cooked all the way through with no pink remaining in the center. The inside is completely brown, and the texture is much firmer compared to the earlier levels of doneness. To reach this stage, the steak is cooked for a longer period over consistent heat, usually around 5 minutes or more per side, depending on thickness. This allows the heat to fully penetrate the meat, leaving no undercooked areas. The internal temperature typically goes above 155 degrees Fahrenheit, resulting in a steak that is thoroughly cooked from edge to center. When sliced, a well-done steak appears evenly brown throughout with a well-developed outer crust. The juices are more limited at this stage, and the texture is noticeably more solid. Even though it's the most cooked option, well-done steak is often chosen by those who prefer a fully cooked, consistent texture with no trace of pink. Pittsburgh Rare. Pittsburgh Rare is a unique style of steak that's cooked with an extremely charred exterior, while the inside stays very rare. It's sometimes described as black and blue because the outside is almost blackened, while the center remains cool to warm and deep red. This method is achieved by cooking the steak at extremely high heat for a very short amount of time. The surface is exposed to intense temperatures, often on a super hot grill or cast iron pan, which quickly forms a dark, crispy crust without giving the inside time to cook through. The name is believed to come from steelworkers in Pittsburgh who would cook meat on hot industrial surfaces during work, creating that signature charred outside and rare center. When sliced, a Pittsburgh Rare steak has a heavily seared, almost black crust with a soft red interior that contrasts sharply in both texture and temperature. It's often chosen by those who enjoy a bold, smoky crust on the outside, while still keeping the inside tender and close to its natural state. Chicago style. Chicago style steak is known for its intensely seared, almost charred exterior paired with a juicy inside that's usually cooked to a preferred doneness, most often rare or medium rare. Unlike other styles, the focus here is on building a deep, flavorful crust while still keeping the center tender. This is achieved by cooking the steak at very high heat, often on a grill or in a cast iron pan, allowing the outside to develop a dark, slightly smoky char. After that initial sear, the steak may be finished to the desired internal temperature, giving it more flexibility than something like Pittsburgh Rare. The result is a steak with a bold outer crust that has a slightly crisp texture while the inside remains juicy and full of flavor. The contrast between the charred exterior and the softer center is what defines this style. When sliced, you'll see a dark, well-seared outer layer, with an interior that can range from red to pink, depending on how it's finished. Chicago style is often chosen by those who want the best of both worlds, a strong, smoky crust on the outside and a juicy, flavorful center on the inside.